is regional Victoria the best or currently the best growth pick nationally? And that one's from Glenn. So what I've done, I went through a round of these up there. They're just, it's easier to present it this way. But this is a breakdown of actual purchases over the last 90 days. So we can see Victoria, those who have been jumping on, is just trending slightly up or holding ground here. We're getting very close to 50% of purchases happening in Victoria. We've then got about 22.5% in Queensland. Then we've got 12.5% in Tasmania. And then we've got, about the same in New South Wales, and there's 5% in Western Australia. So there's essentially none that's happened in South Australia over the last 90 days and nowhere else. So I think one thing to keep in mind is, as I touched on earlier, is there is we are going to be following the data, but we also have to work with the client's, capacity. If they've already got, a property in each state or a couple of properties in each state, and they want to get some diversity in their portfolio, then it might make sense that we start introducing some other locations. They also might have certain yield requirements that they need either for a lending perspective. They also might need it for a cash flow management. They might have land tax issues that they're trying to avoid. They might only want to look at certain spec homes, which that means it starts to rule out other locations. But the other thing to keep in mind is, as well as that, is listings. So I just went through a quick real estate search before. Like if I was to include three LGAs, sorry, four LGAs, in Victoria where we're buying, and if we compare it to an LGA in Tasmania. So Tasmania is, doing a fourth of the work that Victoria is doing in terms of purchases, but that LGA had 68 opportunities at a certain price point and filtering that I put through. Now, if we compare that to those four LGAs that we had in Melbourne going through, and we'll just crunch some numbers on this. So I had 220 plus 140 plus 290 plus 40. So we had we had nearly 10 times the amount of listings that came through versus Tasmania. So there's going to be a few things that ties into that. It's the volume of listings coming through. Another one's going to be, are they actually passing our due diligence checks? Are they do they stack up from an appraisal side of things? And also, what is the market like in terms of, we in Victoria earlier this year, I felt like we were one of, if not the only buyer's agent buying in some of the areas we're buying. It's starting to get a little bit more competitive. So there's going to be negotiation percentage. We might still be the only buyer's agent or major buyer's agent buying in Tasmania right now. So potentially that conversion rate to come in. Whereas here in Western Australia, for the amount of volumes of listings, potential offers we put through, it's not a high conversion rate because there's just such a competitive market, and whether they meet, the offer amount, whether they meet the appraisal amount as well. So there's a few moving pieces. So I guess for us, Glenn, in terms of the volume, yeah, Victoria is the number one, but there's a few moving pieces that can also cause a little bit of bias to that. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. And if not, hit me up and we'll try and give you a bit more. So what do you consider to be the most important drivers of capital growth for the areas of Ballarat, Mildura and Latrobe in Victoria? So firstly, for Ballarat, there's a fair bit of project spend going into the energy sector. I'm not huge on the energy sector because a lot of it's kind of wind and solar, not a huge amount of jobs created. But the main ones are there, a lot of healthcare. That hospital out there is one of the bigger ones for the region, not only for the locals of Ballarat, but also for people in the surrounding areas. So that's a very big one. But population growth in Ballarat forecasted at around about 6.5%, but supply is around 3% for new construction. So big variance there, even though there is still a bit of stock to be soaked up. That's quite a variance. Then we go into Mildura. So there's a few things. We've got strong yields in Ballarat, so pretty good rental returns. The health sector is getting a lot of spend out there as well, particularly for the size of the town. So those health jobs are great. We're bringing in high income earners. They're essentially jobs that last forever. That's what we like to see, but also a bit of tourism spend. So down in Melbourne, I've heard some radio ads. I've seen some flyers about Mildura. Apparently, gets more sunny days than I think it's the Sunshine Coast or something like that. So a bit of a different climate. So they're probably trying to push that in as a almost like a tourism destination town, maybe even a retirement push from that as well. So that's a big plus for those areas. Because if you just get a few thousand people come to a smaller town like Mildura, that's again, it's kind of like Tassie getting a football team. It's a big swing with those percentages. And then Latrobe. So Latrobe, a lot of population growth. They're getting particularly a lot of jobs in the education and the health space, which again, those two are the, if we ever hear politicians talking at election time, they're always going on about education and healthcare, draw people into an area, draw a lot of ongoing employment that leads to ongoing spend. People want to live near those areas as well. So that's a big plus. There's far less reliance on, I think, a lot of people that had some concerns about Latrobe, about the coal station. That has been scaling back year on year. We actually spoke to a local agent the other week, and there's like 200 odd people working at one place, and it's just gradually being staggered down. So we're talking about a really small amount of people that could potentially get affected versus some of the other. I think there's a big paper mill out there that they're expanding, creating more jobs. So I feel really strongly about all of them, Matt. You've just got to weigh up, I guess, which you have a personal preference for it. But it's also, you're going to be at the mercy of the listings coming through, whether they're passing due diligence, and then also whether your offer gets accepted. So, being out of the market is the thing that's going to cost you the most more often than not. But hope that makes sense. And